So today, we're taking a deep dive
Hmm.
into something I think a lot of people have experienced at some point. The whole rebuilding trust thing. After, uh, after there's been, some kind of betrayal.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, the stuff you sent me for this deep dive,
Yeah,
it's pretty intense.
it is.
We're talking about healing and rebuilding trust, not just in like romantic relationships, right? This is like any kind of relationship where, that trust has been broken.
Right. And actually, one of the things that's so interesting is that the sources talk about how our brains process betrayal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's actually like physical pain.
No way. Seriously.
Yeah.
So like, it's not just me being, dramatic when I feel like, oh my God, my world is ending.
It's not dramatic at all. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The same neural pathways light up when you're betrayed as when you experience physical pain.
Wow.
Like, remember that time you stubbed your toe and thought it was broken?
Oh, yeah.
Betrayal can feel that intense emotionally.
Oh my God.
And the source material dives into why,
Okay, so it's like literally messing with your brain chemistry.
yeah, your amygdala,
Uh-huh.
which is like the brain's alarm system, it goes into overdrive,
Oh, jeez.
flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol.
So is it like a primal response?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so I guess step one then is just sort of accepting that like this is gonna hurt like hell and it's for good reason.
Yeah,
There's a reason why I feel like crap.
exactly. And acknowledging that pain is crucial. And it also helps to think of it kind of like grieving.
Oh.
You're grieving the relationship as it was before the trust was broken.
Right.
You have to let go of that before picture before you can even think about rebuilding.
That makes sense because it's like if I'm trying to pretend everything's fine, it's just gonna keep me stuck in this like
Totally. It's
Yep.
like trying to build a house on a foundation that's riddled with cracks, you know?
Yeah.
Eventually, the whole thing is going to crumble.
Right.
You need a solid foundation, and that starts with understanding why those cracks appeared in the first place.
Okay, so then how do we even begin to like repair that foundation? Because the sources talk a lot about communication,
Mm-hmm.
but it's way deeper than just like talk it out.
Right. Yeah, it's not just about talking, it's about taking full accountability.
Okay.
And that means something different depending on who broke the trust.
I can already see where this gets tricky
It does.
because like even if they're genuinely sorry, the person who broke the trust, how do they actually prove that they're taking responsibility? Like what does that even look like?
Right. Well, that's where actions speak louder than words, right?
Hmm.
Like, think of it this way. In a romantic relationship, like accountability might mean willingly giving up certain freedoms to rebuild trust.
Okay.
Maybe it's sharing your location, being transparent about your phone,
Oh, sure.
or like involving your partner in decisions that you used to make solo.
So it's like showing them, look, I'm giving you access to my world again,
Exactly.
my inner world in a way that hopefully makes you feel safe.
Right. And in a workplace, it might mean accepting a demotion without complaint or going above and beyond to fix a mistake you made, even if it means working late or taking on extra tasks.
Got it.
It's about demonstrating through your actions that you understand the severity of that breach of trust
Yeah.
and that you're willing to make amends.
Okay, so, and it has to be consistent too, right?
Yeah.
Like one grand gesture isn't going to cut it.
Oh, yeah. Consistency is key because think about it. Every time you make a promise and keep it, every time you show up when you say you will,
Uh-huh.
you're adding another brick to that foundation of trust. You're
Yeah.
proving that your word means something.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the person who was betrayed? What's their role in all of this?
Yeah.
Because they're the one who got hurt, so do they just have to like sit back and wait for the other person to like prove themselves?
Not at all. They have a crucial role to play, too.
Okay.
Remember that Brene Brown quote, clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
Oh, yeah.
That applies here big time. The person who is betrayed needs to be crystal clear about what hurt them, what they need to feel safe again,
Right.
and what their boundaries are.
Because like bottling it all up isn't going to help anyone.
No, it's not just about venting, though. It's about clearly articulating what needs to change.
Okay.
So, for example, if someone betrayed your trust by, like, sharing a confidential secret,
Yeah.
you might need them to agree to check in with you
Uh-huh.
before ever disclosing anything personal about you again.
Right. So it's about setting those boundaries like guardrails to protect themselves
Exactly.
while they're trying to heal.
Yeah, boundaries create a safe space for both people.
Okay.
They let the person who messed up know exactly what they need to do to regain trust, and they give the person who was hurt a sense of control and security.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting to build this picture, right, of like rebuilding trust brick by brick, boundary by boundary.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also hearing a lot about patience.
Yes.
which honestly makes me a little anxious. Like, how long is this supposed to take?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the sources all agree there's no magic timeline for this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a process.
But like, what if I'm putting in all this effort right? Like I'm setting boundaries, I'm being clear about my needs, and the other person still isn't showing any real signs of changing? Like, how long am I supposed to wait?
Right. Well, that's where it gets really personal.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer, but the sources emphasize that rushing the process can actually backfire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's not just about being nice, it's like actually crucial for the whole thing to work.
Think of it like healing a broken bone. If you try to walk on it before it's fully mended, you're just going to cause more damage.
Right. So giving it time is like actually part of the healing process.
Exactly. Rushing can lead to resentment and distrust building up again.
Okay.
It's like slapping a coat of paint over those cracks in the foundation we talked about.
Right.
It might look okay for a while, but it's not a real fix.
Okay. So how do I know if things are actually moving in the right direction? Like, are there any signs I can look for?
Well, this is where understanding the why behind the betrayal becomes really important.
Okay.
Was it like a one-time lapse in judgment, or is there a pattern of behavior that needs to be addressed?
Okay. So let's say the betrayal was due to like a pattern of dishonesty.
Right.
What are some concrete signs that someone is actually breaking that pattern? Like, it can't just be them saying, oh, I'll never lie again.
No, it's about looking for tangible changes in their behavior.
Okay.
Are they being more transparent in all areas of their life,
Yeah.
even about small things?
Yeah.
Are they willing to check in with you regularly about their progress, even when it's uncomfortable?
Okay.
Are they open to hearing your feedback, even if it's hard to hear?
So it's not just about them saying the right words. It's about them consistently acting in a way that aligns with those words.
Exactly. And that consistency builds trust over time.
Okay.
Think of it like earning interest on an investment. Every time they demonstrate trustworthiness through their actions, that interest compounds,
Right.
slowly rebuilding the capital of trust that was lost.
That's a really helpful analogy. It makes it feel less like this like waiting game and more like an active process of rebuilding.
It's a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah.
It takes effort from both people, but it also takes time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even with the best intentions, people stumble. Healing isn't linear.
Right.
There will be good days and bad days, moments of doubt and insecurity.
So how do you deal with those setbacks without losing all hope? Because if I'm being honest, like I'm already bracing myself for the other shoe to drop,
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Betrayal can really shake your faith in people and in yourself. And the sources acknowledge that.
They do.
Yeah, they talk about the importance of self-care during this process.
Okay, so what does that look like practically? Because I think it's easy to get so caught up in like trying to fix the relationship that you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah, right. It's about prioritizing your own well-being just as much as you're prioritizing the health of the relationship.
Okay.
It might mean taking some time for yourself to process your emotions, whether it's journaling, meditating, going for a walk in nature, or talking to a trusted friend or therapist.
So it's about remembering that I'm not responsible for the other person's healing, only my own.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that you deserve to be in relationships where you feel safe, respected, and valued. If those needs aren't being met, even after genuine effort from both sides, it might be time to reevaluate the relationship.
That's a tough reality to face.
It can be.
But I guess sometimes walking away is the healthiest choice, even if it's the most painful one.
It can be, but the source material emphasizes that staying in a relationship where you're constantly walking on eggshells, never quite feeling secure, can be even more damaging in the long run.
So how do you know when it's time to throw in the towel? Like, are there any red flags to watch out for?
It's different for everyone, but some common red flags are if the person who betrayed you continues to make excuses for their behavior, if they minimize the impact of their actions,
Yeah.
or if they refuse to take any concrete steps to rebuild trust.
Basically, if they're all talk and no action, it might be time to move on.
Exactly. Because trust is built on actions, not words. And you deserve to be with someone who understands that.
Right.
And is willing to put in the effort to prove themselves worthy of your trust.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of patience, self-care, recognizing red flags. But let's be real, this whole process sounds incredibly exhausting. Is there any point where it gets easier?
It does get easier,
Okay.
but it's a gradual process. The source material compares it to learning a new skill.
Okay.
At first, it's awkward and uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
With practice, it becomes more natural and effortless.
So you're saying that rebuilding trust is like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Like you might fall a few times,
Yeah.
but eventually you find your balance.
Exactly. And eventually you might even be able to ride without even thinking about it.
That's a comforting thought because right now it feels like I'm wobbling all over the place.
It's okay to wobble. The important thing is to keep pedaling,
Uh,
keep putting in the effort, and trust that eventually you'll find your way back to solid ground.
Speaking of effort, we haven't talked much about forgiveness. Is that like a necessary part of rebuilding trust?
That's a great question, and one that the sources address directly.
Okay.
They make it clear that forgiveness is a personal choice,
Mm-hmm.
and it shouldn't be rushed or forced.
So it's not like a checklist item like, okay, I've communicated my needs, I've set boundaries, now I have to forgive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Forgiveness is a deeply personal process, and it might not even be possible in some cases,
Right.
and that's okay.
But if forgiveness isn't necessary, how do you move past the hurt and anger without it just like eating away at you?
That's where acceptance comes in. It's not about condoning the behavior or forgetting what happened. It's about acknowledging that the betrayal happened, accepting the pain it caused, and choosing to focus on your own healing and growth.
So it's about letting go of the need to be right,
Mm-hmm.
the need to punish,
Right.
the need to make the other person feel as bad as you do.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that holding on to anger and resentment ultimately hurts you more than anyone else.
I think that's a really important distinction because sometimes letting go feels like you're letting the other person off the hook,
Right.
but really you're freeing yourself from the burden of carrying that pain.
You're choosing to move forward not because you condone what happened, but because you deserve peace.
I love that. It takes the focus off of the other person and puts it back on you where it belongs.
And that's a powerful shift because ultimately you can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you choose to respond.
So even though forgiveness might not be possible right now, acceptance can be a starting point.
Exactly. It's about choosing to focus on your own healing and growth, regardless of what the other person does or doesn't do.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the emotional and psychological aspects of rebuilding trust. But are there any practical strategies or tools that can help? Because sometimes it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels, not sure what to do next.
Yeah, well, that's where the source material gets really interesting. It suggests exploring different therapeutic approaches that can be helpful in these situations.
Okay, so like what? Couples therapy, individual therapy, anger management. What are we talking about here?
Well, it depends on the specifics of the situation and the needs of the individuals involved, but some common approaches mentioned in the sources include emotionally focused therapy,
Okay.
which helps couples understand and work through their emotional patterns. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which focuses on changing negative thought patterns and behaviors.
Uh-huh.
And even something called Gottman Method couples therapy, which is based on years of research on what makes relationships successful.
So it's not just about talking about your feelings. It's about learning specific tools and techniques
Right.
for communicating more effectively, managing conflict, and rebuilding trust.
Exactly. It's like having a coach in your corner,
Okay.
guiding you through the process and helping you develop the skills you need to create a stronger, healthier relationship.
Now, I imagine having that neutral third party can be really helpful, especially if communication is completely broken down.
Absolutely. A therapist can act as a mediator,
Okay?
helping both parties feel heard and understood, and facilitating a more productive dialogue.
So seeking professional help isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's actually a sign that you're taking the rebuilding process seriously.
It's a sign of commitment to yourself and to the relationship.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, this is important to me, and I'm willing to invest time, energy, and resources it takes to heal.
Okay. I'm starting to see therapy in a whole new light.
Yeah,
It's not just for people who are quote-unquote broken. It's for anyone who wants to grow and learn and build stronger relationships.
exactly. It's like going to the gym for your emotional well-being.
I like that.
It's about strengthening those relationship muscles
Uh-huh.
and developing the resilience you need to navigate life's inevitable challenges.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of like heavy stuff, right? Like the pain, the boundaries, the long road to rebuilding trust.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that keeps coming up in these sources is this idea of radical acceptance.
Yeah.
What does that even mean when it comes to betrayal?
It's a powerful concept.
Okay.
It means accepting that you can't change what happened.
Okay.
You can't control the other person's actions,
Right.
but you can control how you choose to respond to the situation.
So it's about like accepting the reality of what happened without dwelling on the what ifs or like trying to punish the other person.
Exactly.
So-
It's about shifting your focus from blame and resentment to healing and growth.
Okay.
It's about choosing to move forward, not because you condone what happened, but because you deserve peace.
That makes sense. But isn't there a risk of like being taken advantage of if you're too quick to accept and forgive?
Yeah, that's where boundaries are crucial. Radical acceptance doesn't mean being a doormat or letting people walk all over you.
Right.
It means accepting what is, but also setting clear limits
Okay.
for what you're willing to tolerate moving forward.
So it's about balancing compassion with self-protection,
Exactly.
like not letting the betrayal define you, but also not letting it happen again.
Precisely.
Okay.
You're acknowledging the hurt, but you're also taking back control. You're saying, I deserve to be treated with respect regardless of what's happened in the past.
Right.
And that might mean walking away if those boundaries are repeatedly crossed.
I'm also thinking about the impact on self-trust. Like when someone betrays us,
Hmm.
it can really shake our confidence in our own judgment?
Yeah, that's a profound point.
It's like,
Betrayal can make you question everything,
yeah,
your instincts, your choices.
yeah, like the rug has been pulled out from under you.
It has. And so rebuilding self-trust.
Becomes a vital part of the healing process.
So how do we even begin to do that? How do we learn to trust ourselves again after our trust in someone else has been so deeply broken?
It's a journey and it takes time.
Huh?
Start by acknowledging your feelings. Allow yourself to feel the hurt, the anger, the confusion. Don't suppress those emotions.
So it's like we talked about earlier, acknowledging the pain is the first step to healing.
Exactly. And as you start to heal, start paying attention to your inner voice.
Okay.
That gut feeling that might have been whispering doubts before the betrayal even happened.
Right.
Learn to listen to it again.
Yeah.
Trust your instincts.
Because we need to remember that we're not to blame for someone else's choices.
Right.
We did the best we could with the information we had at the time.
Exactly. And sometimes the toughest experiences offer the most profound lessons.
It's true.
Betrayal can teach us to be more discerning in our relationships, to set stronger boundaries, and to advocate for our own needs.
Yeah.
It can be a catalyst for huge personal growth. It's almost like that Japanese art of kintsugi, where they repair broken pottery with gold.
Yeah.
Like the cracks become part of the beauty, part of the story.
I love that analogy. That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
Rebuilding trust after betrayal is like that. It's about mending the broken pieces, honoring the scars, and emerging stronger and more resilient than before.
And even if the relationship doesn't survive, the lessons we learn along the way can help us build healthier, stronger connections in the future.
Absolutely.
Like we learn to recognize red flags, to communicate our needs more clearly,
Right.
and to prioritize our own well-being.
Yeah.
So even though this deep dive has been heavy at times, I'm feeling a sense of hope. Like even though betrayal is painful, it doesn't have to be the end of the story.
It doesn't. It can be a new beginning, a chance to rebuild trust not just in others, but also in ourselves.
And that's a powerful place to start. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Of course.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit healing.
And remember, if you're struggling with the aftermath of betrayal, you're not alone. Reach out for support, whether it's from a therapist, a trusted friend, or a support group.
Yeah.
There's help available, and you deserve to heal.
Thanks for listening, everyone.